Welcome to Artist Tales, the podcast that features and celebrates artists from different walks of life. I'm your host, Heather Martin, and in this episode, we're shining a light on the incredible work of Barons Court Project, a day centre and charity based in Hammersmith, West London. Barons Court Project offers practical support and emotional refuge to people experiencing homelessness or mental ill health. More than just services, it's a place where dignity is restored and creativity is embraced. Joining me is Michael Angus, the centre's director, and Guan, a guest whose recovery journey led him to discover painting. His vibrant work, Rainbow Tree, blossomed into a best-selling greetings card through the project's social enterprise, Homeless Made, a platform where guests share their stories and talent with the world. Welcome, Michael and Guan.
Thank you.
So, Michael, tell me a little bit more about Barons Court Project and, the work you do. And also, I'm conscious this is your 40th anniversary.
Yeah, so Barons Court Project is Hammersmith and Fulham's only day centre for people who are living on the streets, who are homeless and rough sleeping, people that we term as on the edge of homelessness. They're very close to becoming homeless, and also people living with mental health conditions. As you've said, it's our 40th year. We've been serving the community for all that length of time. And I estimate we will have served around 25 to 30,000 individuals over the period that the project's been going. So what do we do and what are we for? Barons Court Project services I split into three areas, which I call body, mind, spirit. Body are the services that people who are living rough on the streets need to physically survive. So that's things like showers, laundry, clothing, meals, haircuts. But we go beyond that too. We have podiatry, visiting nurses, dentists, opticians, anything that people might need to look after the physical sense of their being. And then our section of work, which we call Mind, is where our project workers will help people who may not have capacity to do everything by themselves. So they'll help them with things like benefits forms, housing applications, looking for work, preparing to be job ready, writing a CV, even role-playing interviews. So anything that actually helps people move forward. And then the final aspect of our work is what we call spirit. And that's the fun stuff. That's the things like the art classes, trips to local parks, the beach in summer. We've been rock climbing recently, a whole range of different things suggested by our guests that enable them to live life and have life in all its fullness.
That sounds quite diverse and quite a wide remit that you have. And where does the art come in? So you mentioned there is a bit of art. So what form does that take?
So the art project started a number of years ago, and it was through a volunteer who had been homeless himself and had learned art, and he came in to run an art class at the centre. Art is quite common in homelessness projects because it's a way of people communicating who may not be able to communicate verbally. So it's a way of them expressing themselves, creating works that might be beautiful or might be disturbing, but it allows them to get out what they're feeling inside. So it's actually very common that homelessness projects have an art class. And we were running an art class for a number of years, and that's where Guan and other people first came into contact with BCP, but also started to participate. It led to something new through the pandemic. So in COVID, when rough sleepers many of them placed in hotels, I was working throughout because it was easier and we were able to do far much more by me being here. And I spoke to Guan and another of our artists called Louis, and they were very demoralized. And I said, if you want to come into the project and paint, you are allowed to. We're not breaking any laws because it's support, but you take the risk. And they both said it would help them with their mood and their anxious feelings and feelings of isolation if they were able to come and paint, and they did. To my shame, I'd never noticed how good their art was before, because they were attending a class with a volunteer and I'm doing other things. But in that time, I actually happened to notice how brilliant they are. So I suggested to them one day that we take their art, turn it into cards and see if we could sell them online at the time, because shops were shut, and see if we could raise some money for them as artists and also the project. And we would do a 50-50 split because it's their talent. We would take the risk, we would do the marketing. They looked at me and said, well, our art isn't good enough. And I said, yes, it is. And looked at one of their designs and said, I would happily buy it as a card. And then they said words which actually still crush me today. They said, we are not good enough. And that is the battle, really, of the whole of our work, is trying to enable people to feel good about themselves, to know that they are loved, they are cared for, and that they're valuable human beings. So they thought about it. They didn't rush into it. They carefully thought about whether this should be something that we would want to do. And about 10 days later, with me chomping at the bit, wanting to get on with this, they gave me permission. To cut a long story short, we now have 6 artists in the collective, and we've just been interviewing last week to maybe take on another 4. We've sold around 55,000 cards since we launched, and we're stocked in about 25 to 30 shops across the country, and they come and go, and new ones come online. It has worked. What's been brilliant is that we've been able to pay out about £34,000 to the artists through the profit share. We've also received a similar amount of money, although we sometimes absorb a few more of the costs. But it's also got us noticed. It's raised our profile as a project. It's enabled us to partner with corporates, with a whole range of different people who wouldn't be able to work with us in any other way. And it's brought in grants and donations of around £160,000. So that's actually important because it's helped us, it got us across the line in a very difficult financial year. But more than that, the joy has really been to see the artists flourish, to gain self-esteem, to build their confidence, and to finally know they are actually good enough and they are worth it. So that's been the beauty of this project.
That sounds really such a positive thing, and probably I'd imagine a positive impact on the artists themselves. Because as you say, they are coming from a place where they perhaps, or you've mentioned that they're not good enough, or they feel like they're not good enough. So I can imagine the impact for them has been really positive. But I'm just thinking it's quite a big step, particularly during the pandemic, to launch something like this. So, I guess, what sort of challenges and learnings did you take from this journey from launching it?
That's really funny because I want to tell you a story about the first set of cards that we did. So we ordered 500 cards of 4 designs, beautiful designs. We had a volunteer working with us who came from a country where they don't actually send cards to one another, Argentina. And card sending is not really a thing. You don't get birthday cards or anything else. So our lovely volunteer ordered cards that were far too big. It would take me a month to write them because they were far too big. And he ordered navy blue envelopes, which he thought would look really classic and beautiful. Amazing until you try and get a blue biro to write the person's name and address on it to send in the post. So we stuck white stickers on and we managed to get rid of some of the cards. We've made some schoolboy errors. We've learned as we've gone along. What's been particularly wonderful has been how so many people have got involved and taught us how we could do better, whether that's going to a different printer, whether that's putting captions on some of our cards to appeal to a different audience, whether that's texturing them, whether that's about how we display at the trade shows. People have wanted to help us along the journey because they've seen what Homeless Made is about and they've bought into that idea and concept and said, we will help you to do better. So we know it's an evolving process. We know there's still things we could learn. And I think, we're happy with that. I think one of the other beautiful things is that when we do stalls, because our online sales have dropped now, that people can go back to shops, but when we do stalls, we can engage with people because people are looking at the cards. They're not maintaining eye contact with us, so that it's safe for them to have a conversation with us without having that eye-to-eye contact. And so what we find is people pick them up and they look on the back and they see the image of the artist and the little biography about that person. And they say, gosh, I never knew homeless people were so talented, which is quite ridiculous, really. But, it kind of just comes from their initial gut reaction. And then when they meet the artist at the stall, they engage in conversations which are safe because they're doing it through and over art, but that they wouldn't have necessarily had with people who are experiencing homelessness before. So it's brought communities together and it's enabled us to reach people that we just wouldn't have been ever conversing with before without this project.
I find that so positive because people are finding connection with particularly people perhaps they would not interact or have a very different interaction with, but also it's challenging their assumptions. And I think, we probably do have very rigid or very set assumptions about people with mental health challenges or, homelessness or on the border of homelessness. So it sounds like quite a positive initiative in other aspects as well.
And I'm glad you've mentioned the word connection, because part of the motivation at the time we did it was we were in the first lockdown. I'd come back from South Africa just a couple of weeks before we went into lockdown, and had phoned my parents. My mum was caring for my dad who had Alzheimer's and was about to be, we were looking at putting him into a care home, and said, "Can I come and see you?" And they both said no, because COVID was on the horizon and they didn't want me to give them COVID. And I knew that it would probably be months, not weeks, before I would get to see them. And I knew Mum was struggling. And so what I'd actually done was taken to buying cards and writing a card a week to them. Not that I wasn't talking to them every day, I was calling each night, but I just wanted them to have something to look forward to receiving a card on a Friday or a Saturday that would just have my scribbles in with love from Michael, as a way of giving them something to look forward to and hopefully helping their mental health. But it was actually more about helping my mental health, grieving for the fact I couldn't see them. And it was a way of actually keeping us connected, even though we were 300 miles apart and at a difficult time for the whole world.
Yeah, and I think we all struggled with, lockdown and losing those kind of more immediate connections, and perhaps video calls or even cards filled the gap.
Yeah.
And I think what you were talking about too prompted me to think, actually, it's been, 5 years since the first lockdown. We're now in 2025. And I just find it really quite interesting that we send cards still, with email, with message apps and that sort of thing. It's so, really heartening to hear that people still buy the cards.
Yeah.
It's something they still do.
Yeah, there's something special about receiving a card that's been handwritten and the words have been thought through. Perhaps the image reflects something about the person that you've sent it to, or their interests, or their hobbies, or their something that they love. There's something quite special about that. It's been chosen, and it's been the people receiving it have been chosen to receive it. So in a way that an email or a telephone conversation just doesn't do. So it's a different way of communicating.
Indeed. And before we bring in Guan, what has the impact been, certainly since you've started the cards and that sort of thing, of kind of the art classes and that sort of thing with people who come to BCP?
So I think the whole thing with Homeless Made, as I said, it's given our artists confidence and self-belief. So externally, now those artists are willing to go to stalls, they're willing to engage with the public, tell them about their work. We also sell canvases and paintings, and we're often asked to display in office blocks and do art exhibitions, which we've done, and they've often been very successful, and given a way for our artists to showcase their work. Internally in the project, Guan now is so confident that he leads 2 art classes a week at the centre for other people. And they may never be to the standard of Homeless Made artists because they're super talented, but they all too want to find a way of creating art and expressing themselves. And Guan's gentle nature, which will come through in this podcast, he's able to draw out people's skills, gifts and talents in a way that helps develop them and gives them a creative outlet. So it's just everything about it has been a win-win situation.
And it's kind of almost cyclical in the sense that you build people up and they help others and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael. Now, if we turn to Guan.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Guan. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into the art class and the impact it has had on you.
All right. My name is Guan Chao. When I first used services at BCP, that's way back 2015, and I was homeless then. So I come across for help and for support, which I definitely got it from the Barnesburg project. And obviously, Barnesburg project is a drop-in day center, so you got a lot of activities, for the guests. So I joined the art group at the BCP, and then I found that by joining the art group, it's really very therapeutic exercise. Is able to calm my emotions and my feelings. So I find it quite soothing to have this art group. And I joined the art group ever since then when I first started here until now, obviously. And then now because of the art, and I would like to really inspire the other guests that we have at the BCP. So like my Michael mentioned that now I run the art group for our guests here, which really I would like to show them and motivate them and try to express themselves. And obviously, they try to create some creativities and some artistic aspect. I think a lot of guests who are taking parts in the art group, they found them beneficial from joining the art group. First thing that like Michael mentioned before, really the art is such a beautiful thing that because you can express yourself in any way, any forms, and you just try to really tell your story through art, which maybe in the normal circumstances you won't be able to express that in words or through your everyday activities, but you're able to put everything on that piece of paper, and then but from then you're able to show to the world really how you're feeling there. So that's the beauty about the art group. Yeah. And one thing I like about the art group is it's not just the inspirations that you give it to them. They're able to show themselves who they are, and a lot of us we found that art is not just enjoyable activities. In fact, it helps us in like Michael mentioned, the spirit, which really we feel good about ourselves, feel good factor, I would say, because of whatever you created, and you feel so proud that it's a big achievement at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether your art is so beautiful or horrible or ugly, because to us this is my personal achievement, and then that is really is a beauty about the art, because the art is nothing right or wrong about it, because you try to express your feelings. So that's the beauty about art, really.
And it sounds like it's just a different way of expressing yourself. And perhaps when words, you find it can be hard to find the words to express how you're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Because to us, most of us, we suffer from mental health issues, and sometimes we cannot express ourselves through communications, because sometimes we find it very hard to tell by words. And then there's another form of saying to people, how we're feeling. Because take me for instance, I suffer from mental health, and then I found it very difficult to engage with people. So what I did, I just put my feelings as my emotion into my painting, and it doesn't matter how it turned out at the end of the day. But sometimes I did something very shocking, and the people talk about it, which is that I use my art as a way of communications, because obviously they didn't talk to me, but they talk about my painting. So to me, somebody communicate with me in different form. So I feel good about it because I able to engage with the public through a different form. Really, it sounds very weird, but I feel better because somebody that have a conversation with me through my art.
Yeah, no, it can spark those conversations, definitely.
Yeah, because really it doesn't matter what language you speak. Yeah, I speak Chinese, French, Italian. but you're talking about my art. That means, you're talking, communicate with me. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. So the art is like an international language, really.
It is,
It is,
yes. I agree.
yeah.
And how did you feel when Michael approached you and said, look, I think your work is good enough. We want to make, cards. How did that make you feel?
I mean, obviously, we are very skeptical about it because when Michael mentioned to us about turn our paintings into cards, and the first things is that we are not professional artists. We came to do art just for hobbies and to pass time. And our painting or design is not that great enough because we haven't been to the degrees in the college or art schools. We just self-taught. Most of our artists are self-taught in the homeless men artists. So really, we are very, very two minds about it. And then I said to Michael, Michael, don't be silly. Who will buy our card? Because we just did it for hobbies. And then we never thought that people appreciate our arts. And then that took us by surprise because when me and Louis Sachi, the artist, we are the first two art members of the Homeless Maid. And we are laughing at it when we saw our card start the selling. And now we say, oh, wow, there's something appreciate our card. So really that really boosts our confidence and our self-esteem. And we feel much more confidence about what we are painting and whatever we did on our card is really, it doesn't matter how you paint it, but the people appreciate it. Maybe of the color, or maybe because of the design that we did, but people appreciate our work, which really is it give us a boost about the painting.
That sounds really quite positive. And, I guess before I ask my next question, do you help out on some of the stalls? Are you one of the ones who kind of help staff the stalls to sell cards?
Yes, I mean, obviously, part of the homeless made artist is really we try to contribute towards the homeless made. So the homeless made, from time to time, we have pop-up stores, either in the offices building or on the street fair, summer fair. So we always try to participate and then try to contribute, to homelessness to make it work. And from there, it works out to our advantage really because we're able to meet the public. Because sometimes when you go to the store, you just bought a card and you never actually meet the artist themselves. So there is a quite good feelings that people say, "Oh, you are the artist there. Wow, I love your work. You are so talented, whatever." So really, it gives us some bit of confidence about our work.
Yeah, you've answered my next question actually about what people say. So it sounds like people are really positive about your work and the cards that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, the homeless man is just like another platform for the homeless artists to able to show their work to the homeless sectors. Because there are a lot of homeless artists. They are so talented there. You won't believe it when you see them. Then you will believe that they are so talented. Unfortunately, they will never had a chance of given the platform to show their work. So really, the homeless man really is another way of show to the society that although the homeless artists they are so talented that their work should be appreciated, which is exactly what homeless made to make our artists.
Yeah, no, that's such a positive thing. And you also mentioned that you also lead some of the art classes.
Mm-hmm.
How was that for you? Like, is it something you enjoy doing and interacting with the other artists?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because really, that like I mentioned before, being an artist, especially myself, I like to like inspire other people, and to my artwork. And having this art group, or I conduct the art classes for our guests there, I think that what satisfies that I got from is most of our users, our guests, attend the art group. They never painted in their life, so obviously they're very nervous, to join the art group there. But I think as the time went along, they found so confident that because obviously throughout the art classes, they're able to paint, they're able to create some beautiful artwork, and then they never thought that they could able to do it. So in that way, that you give them some confidence. You can achieve things if you really put your mind into it. I mean, a lot of our guests keep saying to me, "Oh no, I never painted like what you do. I never painted anything in my life." I say, it doesn't matter. Just enjoy yourself playing with the colors and try to express whatever you have, and don't worry about what the outcome is. Because that is very very unique piece of art what you create for yourself. So it is no other second piece in the world. So you should be proud of yourself, what you have achieved, which I think most of our guests enjoy it so much. They've been coming here for last 2-3 years. That's you using my class. So that is quite a nice way of to say that really I have achieved what I want to do. And apart from having this art class in a biological project, I've been invited by other companies to do the evening class with the employees in their company. What we call it is it sip and drink or sip and paint exercise. So after work, and they stay back and they have a 2 hour sessions with me, so just have fun, and then they have a few drinks to relax. And I think that one it was the biggest challenge for me. And then I was so happy that I had done 3 or 4 sessions now so far. And then the biggest challenge was there was a group of 40 people in the group. That was daunting. So yeah, so Michael, me, and my manager, we 3 of us, so we were there, and for the evening, there were 40 people there. Yeah,
Gosh, yeah, that's an achievement, but also I can see why it's scary. It's scary.
it was scary, but I mean, at first I was so nervous, but after a while I was all right with it because I think people. I saw that people start enjoying themselves there, and they're having a relaxing evening. And apart from the painting, I think they managed to do a bit like team building because they managed, to know each other, and it's like a team building exercise as well. So really, it's just not a painting evening, and it's a social event, and it's nice to make few new friends as well.
That sounds really great, and it certainly has opened doors to more opportunities for you, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, but I think obviously, we came a long way the journey. We've been 5 years now. So obviously, we were looking for some challenges apart from the greeting cards, and design some painting on the canvases, and looking for some new products
Mm.
to expand our horizons.
So yeah, it's an opportunity too.
Yeah,
But great. It sounds like you've achieved so much, which is really, really quite positive and wonderful.
yeah.
Just want to thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome, and nice talking to you.
Likewise. I'm welcoming Michael back. So it sounds like Guan is just transformed from perhaps not being as confident to actually sort of teaching a group of 40 how to paint and having cards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's really opened up and he's blossomed and he's flourished through this exercise. And it's just been a real joy to see his confidence grow, and his self-esteem and his belief in himself, because he is good enough. He really is.
And I'm sure the others who are involved, it's certainly a confidence builder, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So what's next, Michael? Sort of looking forward, Guan has mentioned, potential new products for the homeless maid, but what's the next steps for a charity who's turned 40 this year?
So that's a really good question. We this year's a busy one as we celebrate turning 40 and the lives changed, as we try and take stock and do better, and as we look to the future. So we've actually redesigned our logo with a 40 on the top of it, and we've got the words yesterday, today, tomorrow, as we look back, take stock and prepare for the future. Sadly, rough sleeping continues to rise year on year on year. Even last year, it was up by another 1,000, and over 13,000 people slept rough at some point in London. So it's hard for us because we are a 4-story townhouse. And on some days, sadly, there are people who've come in having spent a night in the cold and the wet to a warm welcome, but nowhere to sit. So they've been sat on the floor in the wintertime. So we know we need to do better. So we are pleased that we've been granted planning permission to raise our roof, to convert the loft into a brand new purpose-built art studio and group work room where our artists will have natural light pouring in through the ceiling and where they can truly reach for the stars, as S Club 7 once sang about. So that's what we're hoping to do. The figures are in. We need to raise about £300,000 to do that work, but we have a plan. We're confident we will be able to do it. We won't start the work till next year because we don't want any disruption over the winter period. But hopefully by this time next year, or certainly by the time it gets to October next year, when we actually will then move to being 41, we will have transformed our spaces with a new loft conversion, an extended laundry, and a new sitting room in where the room where the current art studio is, and a library room in what's currently an office. So we'll have enhanced our spaces and the offer that we can make to our guests. So that's the plan for this year. But ultimately, we are a project where we want all our guests to be able to belong, to contribute, and then they'll be able to thrive. So we must keep that in mind as we go through the year, how we enable people to do just that. I want to leave you perhaps, or you may have other questions. Sorry, that was presumptive. But I want to mention a quote from former US President's wife, Lady Bird Johnson, who said that art is a window into a man's soul. We want to see our guests. We actually want to see beyond the presentation when they walk through the door. We actually want to understand them. We want to see them inside out and outside in, so that we can do our level best to help them and support them, and they can shine through the work we offer. So yeah, that's kind of one of the thoughts I had.
And it's a really wonderful quote, and certainly a really good thought. And I guess for me, kind of a final question is, it sounds like through the arts program and also the Homeless Maid social enterprise, just thinking back to earlier when we were talking about connections, it sounds like it also has, broadened those connections either with other organizations, companies, people, and perhaps the awareness. And I guess, that's one observation which leads to my question is, has that helped in terms of being able to plan for things like the refurbishment and kind of building on the building that you have to make it, to give you more room, really?
Yeah, so the way it's helped us to connect has just been wonderful, because we've reached people we would not have had any opportunity to reach before without the arts programme. And, people have got involved. They've bought our cards at homelessmaid.co.uk, or they've sponsored a print run. We've had 2 people who said, I will pay for the next print run, so that all the cards sold a pure profit. Other people have said, well, we'd love to have your art in our office block, or us to do an art exhibition and invite our friends and people to see it. So it has connected us, and it's just been a way of making new friends. We've got a big gala event in October at one of our funders, and we'll have art all around the room for sale, but hopefully as well to show people and showcase what we do, what creativity and talent there is amongst our community. And hopefully people will want to do more to get involved, because we hear from time to time politicians saying, I'm going to end homelessness. Boris Johnson said he would end rough sleeping by 2012. Sadiq Khan has promised he will end rough sleeping by 2030. Prince William has said he will end rough sleeping too. None of them will, not by themselves. It's only by doing things together that we will end homelessness. And that's not just from those who work in this sector. It's from the wider community, the business community, individuals wanting to make a difference. If we don't come together, we will just continue to see homelessness rise.
And, that's probably a very powerful message to end on. So I'd like to thank you and Guan for being part of this podcast and for certainly this episode. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you both, particularly for sharing your stories and sort of your journey through the art programs and being part of this podcast. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for tuning into my conversation with Michael and Guan from the Barron's Court Project. The work reminds us that creativity isn't just about aesthetics. It's about connection, healing, and giving voice to those who are often unheard. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out the Barron Courts Project's website and social media handles. Links are in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, leave a review, or help spread the word. Your support keeps these stories alive. In the next episode, I'll be speaking with Holly Searle, who's known as the subversive stitcher. Holly transforms vintage tea towels into bold, embroidered statements that challenge social norms and spotlight issues close to her heart. Her work is witty, defiant, and deeply personal, turning domestic textiles into platforms for protest and empowerment.